I was driving back from the hospital, exhausted and numb, when my phone buzzed with a message from her. I didn't even glance at it at first, my hands tight on the wheel, mind replaying the last 6 hours, bleary-eyed, coffee gone cold in the cup holder, my stomach twisting in anticipation of seeing her and the baby. Then the notification popped up again. I glanced down. "We need to talk. I'm leaving. Also, you're not the father." I swear my vision blurred, and for a second, I thought I'd misread it. My grip on the wheel tightened so hard my knuckles ached. The lane blurred under me as if the road itself was mocking me. I wanted to swerve, slam the car into park, throw my phone out the window, scream something. But I just sat there, the engine humming, tears threatening but refusing to fall, stomach roiling with disbelief and betrayal. Before I could even process it, my phone vibrated again. Her mom. "We found out months ago. Don't make this harder. You'll lose the baby if you keep fighting." I laughed, bitter and hollow, like air scraping down a dry throat. "Lose the baby?" I whispered to myself. "You knew, and you let me believe." I didn't finish the thought. My chest felt like it had been kicked. The betrayal wasn't just hers. It was hers, her mom's, and, somehow, mine for ever trusting the people who should have had my back. Then there was the DM from him, my best friend. I read it 3 times because the words didn't make sense. I helped her. She needed someone. Someone. Like I was supposed to applaud him for stepping in while he secretly played the lead in the life I thought we were building together. I pulled over at the next exit, hands shaking, trying to breathe. Every rational thought I had left in the world was screaming, "Move. Don't call. Don't leave. Fight." But underneath it all, something snapped. Not like the kind that makes you yell or break things. More like the calm before a storm, the quiet planning of someone who's been pushed too far and suddenly sees the path clearly. I didn't confront her. I didn't call him. I just packed a bag with the essentials, nothing more. Didn't say a word to anyone. My eyes were dry, my mind burning with betrayal and rage, but there was a sharp clarity behind the anger. This isn't over. Not yet. And it won't be messy because I'm emotional. It'll be messy because I have every single piece of the truth. The next 48 hours were a blur of late-night coffee, laptop screens, and filing cabinets. I compiled everything. Every bank transfer I'd made for the clinic bills, every text where she begged me to sign medical consent forms, CCTV from the clinic showing him alone with the tech, and the DNA chain of custody receipts she forged to hide donor samples. Each piece of evidence stacked like bricks in a wall I was building. Not to trap her, not to humiliate her, but to make undeniable what had been stolen from me. I printed it all, every single document, every screenshot, every photo, every record, and then I walked into the clinic's admin office with copies for the hospital board, the state medical board, and the clinic's biggest insurer. I mailed the same packet to his employer and the local paper, because if people were going to play God with lives, they needed the consequences spelled out, loud and clear. By dawn, the chaos hit. Lawyers swarmed the clinic, auditors dug through files, and the man who called himself my friend was fired, escorted out of his building under the watchful eyes of security. I didn't watch it happen. I didn't want to. I stayed in my apartment, windows open, city noise in the background, trying not to think about how calm my own hands were while everything around me detonated. Then, at 6 a.m., my phone blew up. 70 missed calls. Unknown numbers. Her sister screaming in a voicemail that cracked like glass. "What did you do?" Mom's floored. She has no idea what's happening. "Answer your phone." I didn't call back. I didn't text. I just stared at the phone and typed one line. One line that summed up months of lies. Months of pretending. Months of trusting people who weren't honest with me. "You should have told me the truth." And for the first time since I got that message in the car, I felt something that wasn't betrayal, wasn't anger, it was peace. The storm had begun, yes, but I was standing in the middle of it with my eyes open. And for the first time, I wasn't the one getting swept away. The next day felt unreal, like I was watching my life play out on a screen I didn't get to control. My phone stayed silent, except for the occasional notifications from blocked numbers trying to get through, and I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I had already done what needed to be done. The legal wheels were turning. The hospital board had opened an investigation, and the auditors were combing through the clinic's records like sharks on blood. It was chaos, and I was sitting back, just observing. I didn't even bother checking social media until late afternoon. just to see if she had posted anything. And there it was, a photo of the ultrasound with him tagged, captioned, "Our miracle." My chest tightened. The heart emoji felt like a slap in the face. I stared at it for a long time, not because I cared about the post itself, but because of what it represented: months of deceit, betrayal, and manipulation packaged neatly into a filtered photo. I felt a strange mix of rage, grief, and disgust, mostly at myself for ever believing her, for ever thinking my best friend was trustworthy. Her mom called. I let it go to voicemail. The recording was short, frantic, and guilt-laced. "Please, this isn't what it looks like. We didn't want to hurt you. You need to understand." I didn't need to understand. I understood perfectly. The lies, the cover-ups, the quiet manipulation, they were all there. I was done trying to rationalize or forgive. I spent the evening compiling even more evidence. There were invoices she hadn't paid, medical releases she tried to forge, emails from the clinic staff that corroborated everything. Every time I found something new, I felt my chest tighten, but this time it wasn't anger. It was validation. Every lie she told, every secret she kept, every betrayal I thought I imagined. It was all real, and I finally had the power to prove it. Around midnight, I got a text from an unknown number. The guy: "My friend. You don't have to do this. I can fix it." I stared at the message for a long time. Fix it? Fix what? The life he had just ruined? Fix the trust he shredded? Fix the future he tried to steal from me? I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I spent the next day like a ghost. My apartment was silent except for the hum of my laptop and the occasional clink of coffee cups. I printed more copies of the files and organized them into 3 piles: hospital board, state medical board, and insurer. I labeled them carefully, meticulously, like I was creating an unstoppable machine of accountability. Everything had to be airtight. I couldn't afford even a shred of doubt. She had already tried to manipulate the system, and he had helped her. I had to make sure they couldn't weasel out. By evening, I drove to the clinic again. Security recognized me this time, but they didn't stop me. They'd already seen the previous paperwork come in. I walked past the front desk, clipboard in hand, calm, collected, like a man who had accepted the storm but refused to be drowned by it. I handed the piles over personally to the administration. No explanations, no drama. Just, "This is everything. You'll know what to do." The receptionist's eyes went wide when she saw the stacks of documents. One of the administrators, a woman in her 40s, glanced at me like she wanted to say something, then thought better of it. She took the papers without a word. I left. No words, no threats, no showmanship. Just walking away while everything I had uncovered began its own momentum. The chaos didn't take long to hit. By midnight, I was getting screenshots from news outlets covering the story. His name was already being redacted from public posts, but the leak was out. The donor registry was auditing every file he had touched. The clinic was in total lockdown, lawyers everywhere. And I stayed in the background, watching it all unfold without so much as a single social media post. My revenge wasn't about the drama. It was about setting the record straight. Her sister called again, screaming this time. "You're insane. Mom's flipping. They're trying to call him. What the hell did you do?" I let it go to voicemail again. I didn't need to justify myself to anyone who had spent months lying. I left a single text to her, simple, unembellished. Truth has a way of catching up. By the time 3 a.m. rolled around, my phone buzzed nonstop. Emails from the hospital board confirming receipt, auditors acknowledging the chain of custody errors, insurers scheduling meetings. I sat back in my chair, staring at the ceiling, exhausted, numb, but strangely at peace. I had done everything I could do, legally, morally, and emotionally. What came next wasn't mine to control, and I had finally accepted that. I finally fell asleep with the city humming outside, not feeling victorious, not feeling happy, but feeling resolved. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't walking on eggshells, pretending everything was fine while my trust was being shredded. The people I thought were closest had betrayed me. Yes, but the storm they created? I was standing in the eye of it, calm, deliberate, unbroken. And when morning came, the world was already reacting to the packet I'd sent out. I didn't check social media. I didn't need to. I knew the truth was out, and that was enough. By the third morning, the fallout hit harder than I expected. My phone was a war zone, blocked numbers, unknown numbers, voicemail after voicemail. I didn't answer. I didn't care who was calling. I had built a wall of evidence so thick that nothing could get through without exposing the truth. And for the first time, I realized how much of my life had been built on lies I'd been too naive to see. Her sister called first, screaming, practically vibrating through the line. "What did you do? Everyone is losing their minds." I listened, letting her rant, not interrupting. She was the only person still trying to negotiate the chaos with words instead of evidence. Look, I didn't," she tried again, voice cracking. I cut her off with a calmness that startled even me. "You all should have told me the truth. That's on you, not me." Click. Then the messages from him started. Hundreds of them. Texts, DMs, even an email with a subject line in all caps. "We need TO talk. This is out of control." I didn't respond. I couldn't. He had already destroyed every shred of trust between us. He helped orchestrate lies and manipulations, all behind my back, pretending to be my friend. He didn't deserve words. He deserved consequences, and thanks to my prep, he was getting exactly that. By midday, news outlets were calling the clinic for statements. Anonymous tips were flooding in. The donor registry had launched an audit on all procedures that guy had touched. The hospital board's investigators were knocking on doors, reviewing every form, every consent, every receipt. The clinic's lawyers were scrambling to contain the damage. I watched from my apartment window, coffee in hand, feeling detached and oddly satisfied. The storm was real, tangible, and it wasn't going to spare anyone who had been dishonest. Her posts on social media stopped. For hours, I couldn't even see her profile, as if she had disappeared into the same panic that must have gripped everyone else. But then she popped up with a single post, a vague, dramatic line about trust broken and everything revealed, no names tagged, nothing concrete. I didn't care. Everyone who needed to know already did. Her mom called again, trying a different tactic this time. Calm, pleading, guilt-laden. "Please, we just want this to stop. Think about the baby. You can't ruin everything over anger." I laughed quietly, bitter and sharp. Stop lying. Stop hiding things. I already did what needed to be done. This isn't about anger. It's about accountability. Click. That night, I got a call from the clinic's board directly. They wanted me to come in, provide a detailed statement, walk them through everything. I did. I sat in that office for hours, calm, collected, showing them each piece of evidence I compiled. The bank transfers, the CCTV, the forged chain of custody receipts, the consent form she had begged me to sign. Each piece made the investigator's eyes widen. Every lie, every manipulation, every betrayal I had been subjected to was finally on the table, undeniable. Afterwards, I drove home in silence. The city lights reflected off the wet streets from a light rain earlier, and for the first time in weeks, I felt nothing. Not anger, not grief, not even relief. Just a hollow certainty. The truth had been set in motion, and I was done with being the pawn. 2 days later, his employer called me. They had suspended him pending investigation. I didn't answer their questions beyond confirming facts. They didn't need my opinion. Facts spoke louder than my voice ever could. By the end of the week, the clinic announced an internal review, promising transparency and accountability. My friend, the guy who had pretended to be my brother, was already escorted from his workplace. Her sister's texts slowed down, stopped altogether. I think she realized, finally, that I wasn't going to respond to panic or threats. Her mom tried one last time, email this time, a long, teary explanation, trying to guilt me. I saved it for the investigators. Every attempt at manipulation, every plea, was now part of the record. That's when I realized the strange thing about truth. It doesn't need an audience. I didn't post anything. I didn't go to social media. I didn't scream from the rooftops. I didn't need to. The storm I had unleashed was self-sustaining. Lies collapsed under the weight of evidence. Manipulation backfired on those who orchestrated it. And me? I sat back, letting the chaos unfold exactly as it should. I spent the weekend quietly, walking around the city, taking in the normalcy outside my bubble of destruction. Life went on for everyone else, but the lives of the people who betrayed me were no longer untouched. Karma, accountability, consequences, whatever you want to call it, they had arrived. And I didn't have to lift a finger beyond collecting and delivering the truth. By Monday, everything had shifted. He was fired. She was under scrutiny for legal violations. The clinic's reputation was fractured. and her family was scrambling to keep pieces of their facade intact. The emails, the calls, the news reports, they kept coming. I answered none of them. I didn't need to. My work was done. I wasn't happy. I wasn't proud. I wasn't even vindictive anymore. I was resolved. For the first time since the hospital, I felt the storm move past me rather than through me. The people I trusted, the people who had lied, cheated, and manipulated, they were facing the consequences. I wasn't broken. I wasn't humiliated. I wasn't ignored. I was standing in the eye of a storm I had built, calm, silent, untouchable. And finally, for the first time in months, I slept through the night without nightmares of betrayal or imagined confrontations. The truth had been told, and for now, that was enough. By the fourth day, the personal fallout was starting to hit harder than the legal and professional chaos. Her family was scrambling, calling, texting, leaving voicemails full of guilt, anger, and confusion. I ignored all of it. I had realized early on that responding wouldn't change anything. The truth was out. Consequences were unfolding, and there was nothing to negotiate. Her sister texted again, short and trembling. "Please, can we talk? Just us." I stared at the message for a long time, thumb hovering over the screen. For a moment, I almost typed back, almost gave in to whatever flicker of guilt was left in me. But then I remembered everything. The lies, the betrayals, the manipulation. I didn't owe them closure. I owed myself sanity. I didn't reply. Her mom called once more, this time with a calmer voice, almost pleading like she was trying to bargain with the storm itself. "Please, you're destroying everything. Think about the baby. Think about him. Can't we just—" I cut her off quietly, coldly. "Everything that's destroyed was already broken. You just made sure everyone knew it. Don't call me again." Click. I spent the next day gathering more documentation. Emails, text messages, screenshots of his DMs trying to spin the story, statements from clinic staff corroborating every point I had made. Even internal memos I managed to get access to through legitimate channels. The chain of accountability was airtight. I knew the moment I handed all of it over, there would be no escaping the consequences. Not for her, not for him, not for anyone who had pretended to be on my side while lying behind my back. Then came the confrontation I hadn't anticipated. Late that night, there was a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I froze for a moment before cautiously peeking through the peephole. It was her. She looked disheveled, exhausted, eyes red. For a second, I felt something strange, a flicker of pity, maybe even lingering love. Then I remembered every lie, every betrayal. I opened the door a crack. "What do you want?" My voice was calm, measured, like a dam holding back a flood. She didn't answer at first, just stared. Then finally, in a voice that sounded broken, she said, I didn't think you'd actually do it. I thought you'd." Her words faltered. She looked like someone realizing too late that the game she thought she was playing had already been won. "I didn't do it for revenge," I said slowly. "I did it for the truth. I did it so that everyone involved, clinic, registry, him, you, would finally be accountable. You should have told me months ago. Instead, you lied. You betrayed me. You destroyed my trust." Tears welled in her eyes, but I stayed unmoved. I wanted nothing from her. I didn't want apologies, explanations, or excuses. I wanted acknowledgement that the manipulation and lies had ended, and that there was no way to undo what she had done. Her voice cracked. I just didn't want to lose everything. I was scared. I nodded slowly. Fear doesn't justify betrayal. It doesn't erase the fact that my trust had been violated repeatedly. Fear doesn't give you the right to destroy someone's life, I said. She didn't respond. She just left, quietly, shutting the door behind her. And for the first time since this started, I felt the weight in my chest begin to lift. No dramatic confrontation, no shouting match, no begging. Just the truth standing between us, solid and unshakable. Over the next 24 hours, the professional fallout intensified. The clinic released statements admitting procedural errors. The hospital board began formal disciplinary hearings. His employer confirmed his termination. The donor registry flagged his name for review, effectively ending his ability to work in that field. I stayed in the background, checking updates when necessary, but refusing to insert myself into the spectacle. I didn't need to. Facts were enough. Consequences were unfolding as they should. Her family tried to reach me again. Voicemails, texts, emails, nothing worked. Every attempt to manipulate or guilt me back into silence was ignored. I realized, finally, that the only power I had to reclaim was over my own life, and the only satisfaction I could take was in watching the truth ripple outward and force accountability. That night, I walked the city streets alone. Neon lights reflecting off wet pavement, the quiet hum of traffic, the occasional distant siren. Everything felt surreal, like the world had shifted while I wasn't looking, and now I was standing on solid ground, watching everyone else scramble to make sense of the storm they had caused. I thought about the baby too. The real, innocent life caught in a mess of adult deceit. My chest tightened at the thought, and I realized I couldn't fix that, but I could make sure no further lies, no further manipulation, went unchecked. That was enough. I didn't have to be a part of their story to ensure the truth prevailed. By the end of the day, I returned home to find a single email in my inbox from the clinic administration. All documents received. Investigation underway. Thank you for your cooperation. No praise, no acknowledgement, just a statement of fact. And that was perfect. That was all I needed. Facts and accountability. No drama, no revenge theater. Just the truth, undeniable and unshakable. As I lay in bed that night, I realized I hadn't cried. Not for her, not for him, not even for myself. I'd spent weeks on the edge, expecting collapse, expecting anger, expecting grief to swallow me whole. But in the end, I felt a strange peace. The storm I feared had arrived, and I had survived it. Not unscathed, but unbroken. Not happy, but resolved. And for now, that was enough. The days after the storm settled felt empty. Not bad, not painful, just quiet. The chaos had done its work. He was gone from his job, under investigation, unemployable in the field he had tried to exploit. The clinic was under intense scrutiny, the board demanding accountability, auditors reviewing every procedure. Her family was fractured, scrambling to contain what remained of their reputation. And I was finally free from the weight of deceit. I stayed off social media mostly, only scanning headlines from time to time. The local paper ran a piece about the clinic's procedural failures, mentioning unauthorized donor handling and chain of custody irregularities, without naming names, but it didn't matter. Everyone who needed to know knew. The truth didn't need a hashtag, a viral post, or a trending topic. It just needed to exist, and it did. Her mom eventually stopped calling. Her sister tried a few more times, short, panicked texts begging me to respond, to forgive, to talk it out. I ignored them all. For weeks, I'd been holding on to the idea that closure meant confrontation, but I realized the real closure was detachment. Not rage, not apology, not acknowledgement, just moving forward while letting the consequences speak for themselves. I thought about her sometimes, not with longing, not with regret, but with clarity. The person I thought I knew, the partner I had trusted with everything, didn't exist. The person who had been lying to me for months was gone, replaced by someone who would face the fallout I had orchestrated with evidence, with precision, with calm. There was sadness in that, of course. Betrayal always leaves a scar. But the relief of knowing the truth, and knowing I hadn't compromised my integrity, outweighed it. One night, I got a letter from the state medical board. Short, formal, the investigation was complete. They had determined multiple violations, and the clinic and the individuals involved would face sanctions. The donor registry was banning him from future work. The hospital board's review led to procedural reforms. I read the letter twice, then placed it in a folder with all the other evidence I collected. It felt final, like a full stop at the end of a long, harrowing sentence. I didn't celebrate. I didn't call anyone. I didn't post anything. I simply poured a glass of water, sat by my window, and watched the city lights reflect off the quiet streets below. For the first time, I felt that heavy knot of stress, anger, and disbelief loosen. The storm had passed. I had survived it. And for the first time in months, I could imagine a life that didn't revolve around betrayal. Her, him, her family, the clinic. All of them had faced consequences, some public, some private, but all undeniable. And me? I was standing in the calm after the storm, intact, silent, and strangely proud. Not for revenge, not for destruction, but for clarity, for truth, for finally being able to trust my own judgment and strength again. Weeks later, I got a text from an unknown number. I didn't recognize it at first, but it was her. Short, almost formal. I hope you're okay. I just wanted you to know that things are sorted. I'm trying to make things right. I read it, felt the old pang of emotion, but didn't respond. She was in a different world now, one she had created with her choices. I had mine. There was no reconciliation in my mind, no desire to reopen doors that had been closed with the force of truth. I started going out more, reconnecting with old friends who hadn't been involved in this mess. I traveled, worked on projects I had been putting off, and began rebuilding routines that didn't include lies, betrayal, or manipulation. Every day, the weight lifted a little more. The storm had left marks, sure, but it had also left lessons. Lessons about trust, boundaries, and the resilience I hadn't realized I possessed. One evening, I found myself walking past a quiet hospital, the same one where it had all begun. A pregnant woman walked past, laughing with someone holding a cup of coffee. I watched them go, felt a small, sharp tug in my chest, and let it pass. Not regret, not longing, just acknowledgement. Life moves forward, whether you're ready or not. And I was ready to move forward, fully, without looking back. The finality of it hit me quietly, not like a crash, but like the subtle closing of a door. I had been betrayed, lied to, and manipulated, but I had acted with precision, with evidence, with unwavering calm. The consequences were delivered, not with spectacle, but with fact, accountability, and undeniable truth. I had reclaimed control over my life in the only way that mattered, by standing firm in what was real and refusing to be a pawn any longer. And so, months after the first text, months after the first message that shattered my world, I finally felt it, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not happy, not vindicated, not triumphant, just peace. The storm had passed. The truth had been told. And for the first time, I could breathe without fear, without grief, without betrayal weighing me down. Life had moved on, and so had I. The world was quieter now, clearer, sharper. I walked forward with my head high, knowing I had done everything I could to ensure that honesty, accountability, and truth had their day. Everything else, the lies, the deceit, the betrayal, was now behind me, where it belonged. And for the first time in months, I slept through the night, completely free from the shadows of the past, knowing the storm had ended, and I had survived it, whole.